everybody. My name's Irene, and I'm hosting the Loan Team Training podcast today. And I have a really great friend, Carl White from the Mortgage Marketing Animals, and the Freedom Club is here with us today. He's my very first guest. Carl had to be my first guest. I knew when I was going to start the podcast that it had to be Carl that was first because he is my biggest mentor. So Carl, welcome to the Loan Team Training podcast.
See, and I thought you were my biggest mentor. See, that's how great relationships work, though, isn't it, Irene?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So I have to tell you, I have to tell you, I feel like I'm on Johnny Carson's first episode, or Oprah Winfrey's first episode, or Ellen DeGeneres' first episode. I feel like, holy cow, this is so exciting. It is truly an honor to be on your first episode of your podcast, first of many of your episodes of the podcast. So good to be here.
Well, thank you, Carl.
So tell me a little bit about the podcast. Like, what's the future hold for this? Because I'll go back and listen. I won't listen to my episode. I'll listen to the next one.
So the name of it is Loan Officer Team Training Podcast. And the journey is to help loan officers and other people as well to know how to utilize a team and how to get their team trained so that they can have processes and systems and do things the same way every time and have a process for doing that so that their business runs smoothly when they're there or when they're not there. The team, you taught me that, Carl, about how important a team is and having them trained, because a lot of times loan officers, they don't want to, or they don't have time to train the team themselves.
Or in my case, I didn't know how to train them. Like, I'm really good at what I do, which is sales, and I can train loan officers fine because I am one, so to speak. I'm a non-producing branch manager these days. But like, as far as like training a loan partner, that's a different skill set.
It is.
And frankly, I don't know what page 3 of the bank statement looks like because my loan partner does, right? Which is what you taught me.
Yep. It's going to help people, whether they're in the loan business or not, but our main person, of course, is the loan officers, because they're the ones that have the team, or branch managers, company owners.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about their different ways of utilizing their team so that they can be successful and their team can be successful with them.
Can I ask you a couple questions? Is that okay?
Sure.
What's the biggest mistake you see loan officers make when they start putting a team together? Like if I'm just getting ready to hire my first person and I hired that first person, what's the biggest mistake you see people make?
They bring the people on and then they just leave them alone. They say, here's your desk, here's your stuff, go ahead and get started. And they don't give them, number one, sometimes they don't properly onboard them. They don't give them all of the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, about how to work in their system. And then the second mistake right along with it is that they don't give them any training, especially when they bring new people on that are new to the business. They don't always train them. Or if they've only had a year or two experience, they don't always give them the training they need. Either they don't have someone to train them, or they just figure, they'll just pick it up as they go. And that's not the best. You and I both know that's not the best way to learn.
Yeah. You know what I think the biggest mistake is?
What?
I think that one. Yep. I think that one. I think another one, which probably happens, which is a different question. What's the biggest mistake you see people make with an assistant, which is not what I asked you. I asked you after they hired that person. I think on the before side, before they hire somebody, is waiting too long to get that first person and thinking I have to get my volume up before I do this stuff. When the volume, now that I know what I know, as the old saying goes, the volume doesn't go up until after I get some help. It doesn't happen before it happens. It happens after. So, and I think it's just having the, I don't know if courage is the right word. Maybe it is, but having the courage to go ahead, it's jumping off the cliff, growing your wings on the way down, just knowing, I know if I had some help, I could get more results because I could spend more time prospecting, but I'm afraid to do it.
Yes.
I'm afraid, what if payroll comes due before I have a chance to ramp this stuff up? And I think we cut ourselves some slack and we go, well, I don't want to be too hard on myself. I don't want to put all this pressure on me. Pressure is what makes diamonds, right? Pressure is what makes diamonds. I think pressure when handled appropriately, you don't grow any muscles until you put some weight on the barbell. So they tell me. So rumor has it. So I've read in magazines. Yeah, it's not until you
Yeah.
put weight on my barbell. And so I find when I got my back against the wall, I do my best stuff, And
Yes.
I hesitate saying that because I think the good Lord above, Irene, you and I both serve, is going to say, awesome, here's a bunch of pressure so you can hurry up and grow. It's like, no, I don't want to grow anymore, but
Yeah. It's courage and it's faith. You have to have faith in yourself,
mm,
faith that you will go do the work. If you
mhm,
hire somebody to do that work for you, then you're freed up to go do the work to bring the business in. And you
mhm,
have to have faith in yourself too, I think.
mhm. I tell you, there's for me, one of my great motivating factors. I walk into the office and I see all those smiling faces looking at me, and I think to myself, each one, just like I have my life. I mean, this sounds kind of silly, but I think they have a life too, and they have a husband or a wife or kids or a cat or a dog or a potted plant in the corner that's
Yep.
relying on them,
Yes.
and they relying on me so that their downlink can rely on them. And sometimes I walk in, I go, I just don't feel like doing this today, and I see those smiling faces, and I go, but you know what? They're counting on me,
Yes.
and I find I would say these days, that's like literally, I would say that's my number one motivating factor. I see whether it's one assistant or 50, right? But I
Mhm.
walk in and see, let's just say if it's one, I walk in and see that one and looking at me, and man, they're counting on me to do what I'm going to do. And because of that, I go do it. And then because of that, I end up making a bunch of money, and they get paid and I get paid even, more than I was before I got them. And
Right.
nothing like a good old deadline, committing that I'm going to do something, and then people counting on me.
Yes.
I'll go out and chop some wood. Where if I go, I'll chop some wood when I get cold. I'm okay. I'll just go get another blanket, but
Yes.
when I know that this person over here is counting on me, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
no, I agree with you 100%. I'm talking to people that I coach through the Freedom Club with you, and they are putting in the work because they don't want to let people go. I mean, it
yeah,
is a big motivating factor. They
it
love
is.
their team and they don't want to let them go. They don't want to
Yeah.
cut back their hours. So they're doing the stuff that they wouldn't do before. They're
Yeah.
doing it now because people are cutting back and they don't want to let them be
Yeah.
cut back.
And as I'm sitting here thinking, pressure, that, man, that's a wrong word, because it's a positive pressure. It's like a pulling forward instead of pushing back. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's like, man, if I just go do this stuff and make this stuff happen, we get to go to Disney, so to speak, figuratively
Exactly.
speaking. Man, I really want to go to Disney. So I don't know. It's not a negative thing. It's a positive
It's a
thing.
very positive thing.
It's
Super
like, you know what
positive.
it is? It's like it's game day, it's a Super Bowl, and I'm excited to win here. So
Yes.
yeah, there's nobody's life's on the line here, right? It's not like we're not in surgery, you know.
Right.
This is yeah. So anyway, yeah, the lack of training. You know what else I would say is like being the assistant's assistant. That
Yes.
I'll never forget my first assistant, Jeanette. God bless her. I cannot tell you how many times she would say, look, I got this. You hired me to do this job. I got this. Why don't we, I don't know. Why don't we get you to go do your job, Carl, and bring more loans in, And she'd talk just like that.
Everyone needs someone like that on their team. They
Mm-hmm.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we
Yeah.
when we do training courses for the loan partners and the team members, we teach them that. Like that's part of the curriculum, is teaching them how they can be such a support to their loan officer by letting
Mm-hmm.
them know, I got this. You go do your thing, I'll do mine, and it'll get done really, really
Mm-hmm.
well. And that's how they can best support the loan officer.
Yeah.
And they get permission to do that from their loan officer. And it helps their loan officer like it did you with Jeanette.
Yeah. My guess is these days it's pretty, I don't know if easy is the right word, but I would think there's a lot of, like, as far as having to hire somebody, quote, new in the business, last October, about a year ago this time, we were having to do that just because of volume.
Yes.
But with a lot of companies laying a lot of people off, I bet it's, are you hearing that? Is it pretty easy to find like good,
Yes.
established, experienced people that can like get off and running like real quick?
Yes, it is really, it's a lot easier than it was. And
Mhm.
that's a good thing for the loan officers that are hiring right now. And there's plenty of people hiring. It's not like
Mhm.
there's nobody hiring. We both know that, right?
Yeah.
There's people that are doing really well in this market because they're doing the daily success plan. They're
Yeah.
doing the activities that they're supposed to. I have some people that I coach that are doing better right now because they're doing those activities, where when it was really busy, they were not always doing those activities because they
Mhm.
were just barely keeping up. But they're actually
Mhm.
doing better now because of the daily success plan, because of doing the calls, the handwritten notes, the face-to-face meetings. Those are being done, and they can do it because they have a team member that helps them in the office so that they can get out more.
Mhm.
And that team member is trained, and that's why they can do it.
You know, I
So
was talking with, I think it was Ralph Watkins. I love that man. He's just a
me too.
fantastic. I do. I absolutely love him. Him and his wife.
They're just
See, I
great.
feel weird saying I love his wife, right? Because that might come across as weird, but
You love
he's,
them together.
I do. He's my brother and she's my sister, right? And I really love that.
Yes.
Anyway, I was talking, I think it was him. And he said, Carl, you know how you have to have the right assistant? And I said, well, I think I do, but why don't you tell me what, like, you obviously got something on your mind. Tell me, how do I know I got the right one? He says, you tell them to go do something and they go do it. And you think that's a good assistant. And then they wait until you tell them something else to do. And we think in the past, I thought that was a good assistant. So I tell them what to do, they go do it, and they wait on me to tell them what else to do next. He said, but I've learned that's not the good assistant. And maybe that is a good one, right? Good's not good enough.
Right.
The excellent one, you tell them what to do, they go do it, and then they go find what else needs to be done.
Exactly.
And that's where, like for me, a good assistant is not an overhead, it's a profit center because they help me write more loans.
Yes.
That every time they're talking, which is what your training teaches, Irene, is see, most trainings, they'll teach them how to, I don't know, fill out form 25D/2, whatever that happens to be. I just made that up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's all fine and dandy, but that person's still an overhead. When you teach them, oh, by the way, when they're talking with the listing agent, when they're talking with the title company, when your assistant's talking with the borrower, the co-borrower, or maybe the seller for some reason, that if you could teach them how to ask for more business in the process, like to give that person that called in I don't know, the title company wants to call and confirm the closing date this day, right? And when your assistant then at the end of that call asks the title company what's their favorite real estate agent they could introduce, loan officer Larry to
Yes.
they work for, and they learn these scripting on how to get more loans from the people that they're currently talking to.
Mhm.
That's when it's a profit center, because the successful closing isn't closing on time. The successful closing is closing on time and getting at least one more referral that's going to go to
Yes.
closing also from that. That's the secret sauce, I think, in the assisting thing, is teaching them how to bring in more loans too. That's what makes them a profit center. And then the extra loans they help bring in pays their salary. And now you've really got like a free assistant to help you get page 3 of the bank statement, like get you out of so not only do they free you up to close more loans, you make more money that way. When they're talking with people, they actually bring more loans in. And even if they're not a salesperson, which officially, I guess they're not, when they have the right scripts, the scripts that you guys teach, they just like read that sentence, and that's how they ask for them. But they don't have to come up with ways to. And what I like about what you guys do is you teach them the importance of helping to bring in
Yes.
more loans, so that the loan officer breaks out with a cold bead of sweat with the thought of them leaving, because they think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna these extra 3 loans that my assistant brought in. If I lose that person, I lose those 3 loans.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Thank you. And the connection that they learn to build a connection with the buyers and the
Yeah.
realtors so that the people want to come back to them. And the thing that's fun about it is we teach them how important they are to the process as well, and
Yeah.
how the loan officer needs them, that everybody is needed on the team. And
Yeah.
so we teach them the mindset also. they don't have to be salespeople, they can ask a question. And it's like what you said about Diane all these years is when she first started for you, right? And you said, Diane, how do you take the rejection? And she said, well, they're not rejecting me, they're rejecting you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So that's what we teach them, that, they're not saying no to you, they're saying no to the loan officer.
Saying no to the loan officer, yeah. Yeah, you're not asking for a date for you, you're asking for a date for the loan officer, right?
That's
So
right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I struggled with getting help was I felt like I was dumping on them, because they're doing the activities that I don't like to do.
Mhm.
And again, I think it was Diane early on, she said, well, I'll do that. And I said, well, Diane, I don't want to be dumping on you all the time. Say, Carl, I like this. You're like dumping ice cream on me. I like doing this part.
Yes.
And that was a game changer for me. It was like, okay, wait a second. We're all not the same. And the things that I think is like, quote, dumping on her, and I like her, right? I like her. She's
Mhm.
even when I first met, I went, I like this lady. I don't want to hurt her. I want her to look forward to work. And if I give her all this crap work, or what I would call crap work, she'll burn out and leave. Like I was burning out, not that I would leave, but pondered it, because I was getting burned out by doing all the stuff I didn't like. But I thought, well, wait a minute, she actually likes that part, and the part that I love doing is not her favorite thing.
Right.
We're different people motivated by different things and different skill sets and different experiences. And somebody's trash is another person's treasure, as they say, I guess. And,
Boy, that's the truth. And I see that a lot, talking to the loan officers while I coach them, and then talking to the team members. And one of the questions I always ask, and nobody raises their hand when I ask this, how many of you would really rather be and enjoy being on commission as a loan officer, going out and getting the business and bringing it in? And it's crickets, because they're doing what they love to do.
Yeah.
They're taking care of the clients. They're doing what they enjoy, and they love going to work every day, just like you love going to work, doing what you do. So that's important.
I do the parts that I love to do. See, that's what's really costing loan officers. Man, you think having an assistant is expensive. Not having one is costing a fortune.
Boy,
that's
the truth.
We sent out this survey, Irene, and we sent it out probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that. And the survey was, those of you that have an assistant, how many extra loans did you bring in once you had an assistant in place? So no assistant, how many loans are you bringing in? Now that you have an assistant, how many loans are you bringing in? I think the most we saw was somebody was doing 10 more. I think the least we saw was, I think it was like 4 or 5. I think the average was like 5, 6, 7. So let's just split in half, say 6. Let's say you make an average of $3,000. Hell, let's even go on the low side. Let's say $2,000 per loan. Depending on, you live in Ohio, smaller loan, awesome place, but smaller loan amounts versus San Diego, bigger. But let's just say even at $2,000 per closing, you close, that's an extra 12 grand.
That's a big deal.
That's a big, let's say the assistant gets, I don't know, 5 of it, just say, which these days that might be a little on the higher side, but just say, well, that's if they get 5 of it and you make an extra 12, that's 7 grand left.
Yes.
So you have help, you have less headaches, you're doing more of what you like and less of what you don't like, and you make an extra 7 grand. So it costs you 7 grand not to have an assistant. Work more hours, more frustrating, more burnout. Yeah, you pay 7 grand a month for the privilege of not having help. That's just a check I don't want to write.
No, it's not a check to write, that's for sure. Yeah. And the ones that have gotten assistants and have really utilized them and had them trained the way they should be trained, it's a game changer.
I can hear some people say, well, wait a minute, Carl, Irene, I'm closing a couple loans a month. I can't afford an assistant right now, so this conversation really doesn't apply to me. How often do the assistants that you train, do they oftentimes have like more than one loan officer? Like you have one assistant for like 2, 3, or 4 loan officers sometimes. Is that
yes.
a regular thing?
We have had a few like that. Not a lot, but we have had a few like that. The thing is that when you do that, setting up systems and processes is even more important, because every loan officer should be doing it or every loan assistant or loan partner should be doing it the same way every time, no matter what loan officer they work for.
Yeah.
So it's even more important during that time to do it that way.
I was talking to somebody right before we hit the record button here. Somebody asked me something about how are you reacting to the market? I said, dude, the market's just the market. Super nice guy, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I told him the market doesn't dictate our success or lack thereof. Our actions, our activities do.
Yes.
Right. And so if I hunker down, man, it's going to be a long, cold winter. Right.
Yep.
Winter's coming, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
And if I start taking action and increasing market share, because you go, hey, Carl, there's less deals per 100 people that live in my community. Awesome. Get another 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Just put more, as we say, ore on the belt, which what that means. I know you've heard this, Irene, but just for our listeners, that gold is often comes from iron ore. And so they get iron ore and they put it in the smelting process, whatever that is, right? Melting it down, and they pour gold out of the ore. So if your ore has less gold in it and you want the same amount of gold, well, I guess you just need to put more ore on the belt, right? And just increase market share. And so for me, the market doesn't dictate our income. Our actions dictate our income.
Boy, that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That is the truth.
And then, or lack thereof. So the market isn't the reason for my decrease in loans, perhaps this year, for those that are experiencing that. It's my lack of taking action. It's my lack of prospecting. You want to make more money? Go prospect more. You want to prospect more? You better have somebody back in the office got your back. Because if I'm out prospecting and then the termite inspector is calling my cell phone, I can't prospect that way. I was talking to a guy this morning. We were doing a Zoom call, and again, super nice guy. I hear this ding, 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 ding in the background. I thought it was in Las Vegas. What? I said, dude, what is that? And again, super nice guy, right? And he said, it's my email notification. Good God, man. Would you please
turn it off?
Please turn that thing off,
Yes.
And having the distractions.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's very costly. And having an assistant free up my schedule. Look, you want to close more loans, you got to prospect more. You want to prospect more, you got to have help.
Yes.
Right? It's just that easy. So
and in some markets, you have to prospect more. Like right now we might be riding the bicycle uphill, and you just have to do whatever it takes to make sure you have that prospecting time set aside and doing it, and whatever it takes to cut out all the distractions. So when I'm coaching people, I tell them, turn off everything, put your phone on do not disturb. Don't even have your cell phone near you. If you can, turn off all your notifications, pretend like you're in a bubble. That's what I always tell people. You are in a bubble. You're in a prospecting bubble, and you don't even know what's going on the outside world. You have no idea what's happening there. Because
you have a great assistant that has your back.
That's right.
And is fielding those phone calls.
Yes.
Setting on the application link, getting the process started, maybe even if they're licensed, taking the application.
Yes.
So that you can just call them back and sell the deal. That way, God knows the last thing we want to happen is for them to go to our voicemail. We saw this thing not too long ago, Irene. It said that 79% of the people close their loan with the first loan officer they talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was like 2 months ago or so, something like that, I called 100 loan officers, just random, didn't know who they were, just random. And out of the 100, what was the number? 89 of them, I think it was. Almost all of them, 89, I called and got their voicemail.
Wow.
Right. And maybe it was 87, but it's something like that. So let's just say 89. Well, wait, get this. Of the 89, I think it was like 7 of them, their voicemail was full.
And that's even worse.
Oh, I just thought, I don't even know what that looked like. What does that look like that Verizon, one of the biggest databases in the world, they tap out because you have too many voicemails? They go, whoa, dude, we can't handle any more of your voicemails. We're full.
Yeah.
I think I Googled it, if I remember right, or I think Steve did, our friend Steve Kiles. I think he did. Mm-hmm. Googled, or maybe it was Frank, Googled how many voicemails does Verizon voicemail hold? I think he said it was 45 minutes worth.
Wow.
How in the heck do you have 45 minutes worth of voicemails when you could have an assistant answering that call and turn those calls into money. Because
Yes.
if they catch your voicemail and somebody else answers the call, they got a 79% chance of closing that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't want to give somebody else a 79-mile head start in a 100-mile race.
No, no
Yeah,
way.
bad mistake.
No.
So
So I
anyway,
have a question for you, Carl. I haven't asked you very many questions yet. We'll do another interview where I can really get into it with how you became successful. You're such.
I hang out with people like you, Irene, and I'm not saying that to be, no. I'm serious. That's exactly how I do it. I hang out with great people. So I'm a great student of humans and of human behavior and of human personalities. And I hang out with smart people, right? And see, you got your humble hat on. You go, oh, Carl, no, I'm being serious. I hang out with very smart people. I hang out with ethical people. I hang out with people that's got my back, because sister, I got yours.
Yes, you
And
do.
when somebody doesn't have my back, I just get them, remove them from my circle. Don't wish them any harm, right? Don't
Right.
wish them any ill will. They're out of my circle, right? And so I hang out with smart people. I hang out with people that's got my back because I got theirs. I hang out with people with different skill sets than I do. You know, I read this thing not too long ago. I always knew a version of this, but it said that I'm 10% because of me. I'm 90% because of who I hang out with.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very, very careful on who I hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
And not that everybody has to be rich and famous. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I've got something to learn from that person. And maybe what I got to learn is how to have fun sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think of a dear friend of mine I've had since the fourth grade. His name is Mike Hayes. I've been my buddies literally since the fourth grade, which is many moons ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mike taught me the gift of having fun, and not at the expense of other people, by the way, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I would say who I hang out with, who I listen to, 90% of the success. The other 10%, I'm persistent and consistent. I don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
I'll claw for every legal, ethical, and moral. I'll claw for every, most of the time, let's say it that way, most of the time. Nobody's perfect, right? I've got my faults and I work on those. I do. I work on those. But
Mm-hmm.
I claw for every inch. You know, I claw for every inch. So it's 10% perseverance and consistency, and 90% is who I'm hanging out with. That's it.
Yes. And one of the things that I've learned from you is to keep things simple. That's hard for me because I can
Yeah.
make things pretty complicated
Mhm.
just naturally. So I have to really work on that to keep things simple.
Well, you know, and I'm not saying this to be humble or funny. This is the truth. I think the good Lord blessed me with what I call a low complexity ceiling. So sometimes I've been known to take complex situations and make them simple, but I had to do that so I could follow it. So I can, like, somebody comes up to me with a 13-step funnel
Mm-hmm.
of how they're going to make something work. And I'm looking at them going, good God, I can't even follow it. You know, and I go, well, if we were to simplify this down to 3 steps, what would those 3 steps be?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we could this and this and this one. I go, awesome. Now, of those 3, which one can we delete out? I guess this one. Awesome. That's our plan. These 2 steps right here.
Yes.
And I find that if we have a complex plan in front of us, we're not going to do it.
It's too
Right?
complex.
If it's a simple plan that works, it's effective, it's likely that we will complete it. So keeping things simple makes things happen faster, easier to follow, easier to duplicate, easier to hire an assistant, i.e. your stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and help them make that happen for me. And it's all I can follow. So,
Well, I know for sure that you've helped me over the years in figuring out a lot of things, but it's just been an honor, Carl, to have started the Freedom Club with you and be able to coach for the Freedom Club and with Mortgage Marketing Animals and all the things that you've taught me over the years. For the listeners, I must have listened to Carl present hundreds and hundreds of times. And every time he says, don't you ever get tired of sitting there listening to me? And I always say, never. You have told stories that I love to hear. It's like watching a movie. You're going to see a good movie and wait for that one story in the movie every single time. That's how I feel when you present, because you're so sincere. And I want the listeners to know that that everything you say is so true, because I have had the privilege and the honor of witnessing from the very beginning of the Freedom Club how we were able to put that together because of the different skill sets that we had. And because, I don't know if you remember this, Carl, but when we first started it, I used to say, you're the magnet. You're the one, even though they were talking to me, coaching them, you are the magnet. And it's because of your humility, all of the great skill sets that you have, but you're so humble. And what you said earlier about hanging out with people and people that are loyal and that you do have our back, people that have your back. Boy, that is so true. I've been able to witness that firsthand for the last 12 years. And I just really appreciate that about you. And I want the listeners to know that who they see when they listen to a podcast with Carl, who they see when they go to an event and watch Carl, that's exactly who Carl is.
Yeah, but and I appreciate that. Thank you. But again, 90% of that is who I hang out with.
Yeah.
And so I've learned, trust me, humility isn't something that we're born with, right? Because you take a 6-month-old, they're yelling and screaming, me, feed me. I got a wet diaper, change me now, do this now. So it's all about them. So humility is a learned skill, and almost never is it through positive things,
That's
So
the truth.
I've got bumps and bruises throughout the years, but I found, and much like this season that we're in now, which I would say is a bump and bruise season, right? Mm-hmm. We get our growth through these hard times.
Yes.
That I don't know if I ever learned anything in victory. I always learn things and I don't even want to use the word defeat, but in my challenges, it goes back again. We don't grow muscles until you put weight on the barbell. And so you get a little weight on there and you go, well, I'm going to just sit here and wait until somebody takes the weight off the barbell. Yeah, that's not going to turn out real well. I was talking to a good friend of mine this morning, Todd Scream. I don't know if you know who Todd is.
Yeah, I know Todd.
Awesome guy. And he made a prediction to me. I hope it's okay to share it here. I don't think it's anything in secret or anything. He predicted that in the next 6 months, we're going to lose half of all the companies and half of all the loan officers are going to fall out of the business. I think he's being a little generous. I think it's going to be more than that. I really do. And it's just people are waiting until somebody takes the weight off the barbell. Man, that's not going to happen. Mm-mm. So right now is the time to grow your muscles. It's a time to grit your teeth a little bit, put your war paint on, get some good help, make sure that they're trained. We do not have time to, quote, train an assistant right now. That's going to take too long. You got to get people that already know where the gas goes.
Yes. And
then make sure that they have the scripts and the knowledge, Irene, that your training does to bring them in more business. Not 4 months from now when I get around to training them, they got to come out of the gate right freaking now, ready to go. Yeah, don't sit and watch things happen or wonder, because then you'll be one of the ones that's sitting there outside the window looking in, going, "What happened?" Somebody called me a little bit ago and said, Carl, I think I'm going to bail out. I'm going to tap out. I'm thinking, dude, you're so close. If you just knew what you're letting go, if you just go do the action, because he's going to leave this and go get what he called a real job. And said, dude, if you treated this like a real job, if you had discipline, to go do this for 8 hours a day, like this other thing you're going to do, and you're going to have a taskmaster, beating you with a cane, so to speak, to make sure you're doing your work. Mm-hmm. You're going to make a fraction of the money that you could make doing this if you just had the right help and did the right thing. So anyway.
Yes.
Anyway. Well, Irene, I could talk to you all day, and I know you told me to try to keep it to 30, and it's hard to get me to shut up, but I love talking to you. I love hanging out with you, and I love what you have to offer. And I can't wait to hear the subsequent episodes of your podcast. Good stuff.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Carl. I knew you had to be my first guest, and I'm grateful for you. So anyone who wants to know any good things about the loan business these days, Carl White is the one that will teach them to you. So I appreciate you, Carl. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate I feel like your family, you're my brother. And I just appreciate everything I've learned from you. You've been my biggest mentor. And thank you for being the first guest on the podcast today.
Really, it was an honor. I really feel if your intention was to make me feel special, mission accomplished. I'm just so excited to watch your journey. And I've seen you help so many people throughout the years, both in your coaching and then in your the training that you offer. So it's really cool stuff. So thanks a lot, Irene. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, Carl. I hope you enjoyed our first ever episode of Loan Officer Team Training. And we really appreciated you being here. And if you liked what you've heard, I would really appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review. That will really help us get the word out there about our podcast. We really appreciate you. And don't forget to go to loanteamtraining.com to get information about our training classes. We have a few there for new and experienced loan assistants or loan partners. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy your day.